my fearless friends, you are going to see me extremely excited today because this episode that we are having, episode number 77, your full manifestation guide with none other than Persis Mistry, someone that I admire deeply, and thank God to TikTok, because I haven't told you yet, Persis, TikTok is the amazing platform where I first saw you, and you were talking about money. Something was really different when you began talking. You made this amazing background on how mindset works when you put the best limiting beliefs in it, how self-concept works around money. And it got me really going into this rabbit hole of Persis world. And I found some amazing content that literally changed my mindset around many aspects, around money and around SP, because I kind of had in my mind a special person, a specific person, thinking about ways to maybe get them back in my life or make things even in a way. And I realized as soon as I began working with the questions that Persis very wonderfully offers, because she's so generous with her content, I realized that, maybe it's time to move on. And this was a big, major hit for me in the best way possible, because sometimes we need someone to push us. Maybe it feels hard, maybe we fall, but at least we are making a step ahead. And it's a great honor to introduce you someone that is brilliant, and you'll see why in just a few seconds after I'm going to tell you a bit about this wonderful woman that is actually gorgeous as well. So can you have them both? Can you have it all? Brilliance and beauty? Yes, you can. So my fearless friends, if you are not listening to us on YouTube and watching us, if you're only on Spotify, come and join us on YouTube as well, because you are in for such a treat in all ways. Persis is a mindset and manifestation coach. She teaches people how to manifest love, money, health, successful business, and much more using her very unique methods via her manifestation equation. Her biography is impressive. I was reading it last night and I was blown away by how many success stories she has. I'm not going to tell you more about her because I'm going to let her do the talking today. She is our star, someone that is truly impressive, and you'll see why. Welcome, Persis. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Listen, I'm so excited to be here today. I'm so excited. I feel your infectious energy and I'm just receiving it all, and I'm just loving the whole process. I'm so excited to be able to speak to your people, and I hope that they're going to get a ton out of this episode, because I'm coming and I'm bringing all the knowledge for people who are interested to hear.
You are truly amazing, because every video that you put out there, and I have to admit that I am a fan of TikTok. I have met you there and I think it's brilliant.
TikTok
right?
is the new brilliance. Like, it's just the new thing. It's so funny. I even have my father on TikTok now, which is hysterical to even say out loud.
Well, again, another thing that I admire is that Persis works with her wonderful parents, with her mom and her dad. This blew my mind because I saw you guys, you were in a live session, and the dynamics, the relationship that you have is really beautiful and so inspiring, because not many of us have the best relationship with our parents. But yes, let's talk about this on another episode.
For sure.
Can you please tell us, Persis, what is your story? Because you have come so far to be here where you are today.
Yeah, my story is quite a story itself. Starting from all the way at the beginning, when COVID hit a while back, several years back, I had actually transitioned into the manifestation mindset community, transformation community, however you'd like to put it, personal growth and development. There's so many different ways to describe what it is that I do these days. I had actually come from a medical background. So my medical credentials are that I am a general surgery physician assistant, and I've specialized in surgery. I have gotten my degree from overseas, my bachelor's here in the States, and I'd gone over to India, which part of my heritage is there. And I worked in a wonderful charitable hospital. And over there, you know, the rules are a little bit more laxed. So I would get opportunities to actually start surgery and things of that nature within the first year of completing my course. I had a lot of surgeries under my belt. It was the thing I was most prideful about, the thing I was most happy about. I only ever really saw myself, my identity was wrapped up in my medical career, because from a very young age, education just clicked with me. I was very good at it. I thrived in it. I enjoyed studying, which is not a common trait that a kid has. I had a very, I guess you could say, almost like obsessive personality as it pertained to education. I wanted to be the best, do the best, be more, grow more, excel more, accomplish more, anything and everything that had to do with more. I was always pushing the bar for excellence and trying to just be the best version of myself in all aspects. And it really bled from professional to personal in each and every aspect of my life. Fast forward a little bit, I passed out of my degree with honors, and I came back home. I was ready to finally start working. And something that may not a lot of people not know about me is that I made a conscious transition, because during that period of time when I came back with my shiny new degree, ready to operate, ready to change the world, ready to make a huge impact, I was not able to be absorbed by any of the surgery centers or things of that nature in my local area because of COVID restrictions. And I was barely able to practice. And I was actually overseas practicing while COVID was going on, which was not a popular decision, but things can't really stop in a place like India. It's kind of like in New York City. It's very hard to bring a city like that to a standstill. It's very, very difficult. And not a lot of people listen to those rules over there. But that's also a story for a different time. And so I came back, and not a lot of the students, the newly graduated people, were able to gain the employment. As a matter of fact, they were just allowing a lot of the senior surgeons to retain their ability on emergency cases only. So I was sitting on my degree for a long period of time. And as I said before, my identity was I am Persis, like the medical person. Like, who am I without my medical degree? I honestly do not know. And I had a huge identity crisis when it seemed as if like that aspect of my life was not going to be working out for a decent period of time, because things weren't changing and restrictions were not being lifted. And it was just a really hard time for me. I was very depressed. I was very disheartened. There was a lot of negative things and emotions that I was internalizing because I couldn't work, even though it was something that was very outside of my ability to control at that period of time. And so I started to look into things more seriously. I had looked into manifestation, law of attraction, law of assumption, spiritual teachings before while I was in India. But I looked into them even heavier when I came back and fell into a very deep depression. And I feel like a lot of people that go after personal growth, personal development, they do so when their life isn't exactly going great. You know what I mean? Maybe they had a very, transformational breakup. Maybe they had a career transition that caused them to question themselves and their identity. And that was very much the case for me. Fast forward as I start to post videos on YouTube, because that was the platform at the time. I had not had a TikTok. It wasn't really taking off. It wasn't really doing much. And I had so much shame and guilt in my mind, in my body, in my heart, which was all self-projected, because I was like, I have this medical degree. This is all I ever wanted to do with my life. And now I'm making YouTube videos. It almost felt like a lot of self-shame and a lot of self-judgment that, am I having like an identity crisis? Am I having a midlife crisis? What's going on with me? And so I actually never even showed my face on YouTube when I first made my few videos, just to see if people would be interested to hear me talk. And it's funny because I talk about that a lot on my page, that my biggest insecurity was that no one would even want to hear me speak. No one would want to hear me speak. And now that's the only thing people want to hear me do, is they just want me to talk. They're like, just start speaking. And it's so hysterical to me because it goes to show how much I've overcome a lot of self-imposed restrictions, self-imposed beliefs. To fast forward the story a little bit more, I started to gain momentum. I moved over to TikTok as well. Now I have social media platforms across all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, where I post this content to help people better their lives and improve themselves across each and every area, and to really be the man or woman who has it all. And I teach it by teaching people, honestly, a lot of identity work, a lot of energy shifting to align their mind, body, heart, spirit, however you'd like to describe it, to actually receive the life that they want to experience. And I've been at this in the coaching industry for about 15 months, and the success stories have been wild. They've been wild. People have taken my manifestation equation, and in all honesty, they've used it better than I have even. You know, like, my story is pretty remarkable, but in all honesty, like, they took it and they were like, whoosh, right on up. And they amaze me. My clients amaze me. My fans, my support system amazes me every single day.
Wow, Persis, this is quite a story. And if I may, thank God for COVID. What an amazing time, right? What an amazing time in your life. And I've heard so many stories of people that basically had to pivot their lives completely, their businesses, their professional lives. And I was kind of in the same, let's say, situation. In COVID, I began my podcast. So it's almost 3 years that I started Stories About Fear. And it is the best decision that I could have ever made, because it's who I am, basically. And as you said earlier, that you felt like, okay, I'm Persis, the medical person, and that's it. My story is a bit similar. I used to be a translator. So even my bachelor is in translations, in English traducology, the science of translations, because I love English so much. But then I kind of felt like, no, I just don't want to do this anymore. And it felt really tough. So I totally understand what you went through. And I wanted to ask you, because I think that everyone watching and listening to us are curious about, how can you maybe explain a bit about this manifestation equation that's literally changing people's lives and mindsets as we speak?
For sure. So for me personally, I have probably invested 6 figures easy into my education from a manifestation, personal growth development. I'm not even talking about my medical. My medical, I had a full ride scholarship because I tested high enough. I was a very bright kid, very intelligent kid, like I said. So I never had to pay a dime out of my pocket for my medical education. But as it pertains to my manifestation education, as I've earned money, I've reinvested it into, like I said, being more, being greater, excelling more, accomplishing more, learning more, taking it to the next level. Because although my clients get results very, very fast, I feel like I'm always trying to refine the process. I feel like I'm always trying to get it faster. I feel like I'm always trying to figure out a loophole to conquer this item or this item over here, and to just put out the most value-based driven content to help people really transform the trajectories of their lives, and to start to subscribe to the mindset that nothing is impossible. I know we spoke of my story a little bit, but I literally had no 2 dimes to rub together, literally having to call my father at a very popular grocery store. My US people will understand it, Publix. And I was just honestly teary-eyed. I remember this day like anything. I called my father and I had no money in my bank account. I was trying to buy vegetables. Imagine being so poor, you can't buy vegetables. And in that process, I called him and I was like, I just felt this huge wave of shame and guilt come over me, that I am someone who's very blessed to have the education she has, and yet I have nothing financially right now happening and going on for me. And it was a very tough pill to swallow, because I didn't do medical for the money. I did it because I was passionate about it. But at the same time, I'm the only, I guess you could say, child in my family that actually is a first-generation college student. And, you know, my family members, they have worked tremendous hours so that I would not have to work and I could score high enough to get the free ride scholarship. So my family members have made made tremendous amounts of sacrifice, and I always wanted to pay it back and pay it forward by when I earned the money I was supposed to be earning, I'd give it to them. I'd help them retire. I'd help pay off their debt that they had to go into to bolster me up so I could be successful. And so to transition to that, to having almost $1 million business in the first 15 months is kind of mind-blowing. And the real only way to honestly account for it in my mind is manifestation. I was a person that believed in a lot of hard work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I do still believe in it to a certain degree in a very particular manner. But for me, I believe that belief work is the work people are sleeping on, because I took so much action when I was broke as a joke, no two dimes to rub together. And it got me just reaffirming the same reality. It got me continuing to stay stuck and continuing to live the same life and continuing to think the same thoughts and continuing to think that no matter how hard I worked, I wasn't able to get ahead. But when I did the belief work, which a logical-minded person, medical student, very logical-minded person is like, what is belief work going to do? How is that going to bring me money? Picking up an extra shift is going to bring me money, not belief work. You know what I mean? But when I put my ego aside, and when I was like, I literally have nothing. And it's like, you need to kind of like just be open to it, because right now you have nothing to lose, literally nothing to lose, and everything to gain. So let's just try it out, because obviously what you're doing right now, you're burning out from exhaustion, because I had very negatively ingrained beliefs about money, about work, about success, about fairness in the real world. So many things were compounding against me. And so it kept reaffirming the same reality that no matter how hard I worked, I just couldn't get ahead. I couldn't get the money ahead. I couldn't get a lot of things going ahead. And I had crippling like self-worth issues and identity issues at the time when I made the transition, because a medical person from my background, you know, people would honestly they would probably make fun of me if they saw that I was posting YouTube videos. So I actually didn't even have the courage to show my face on YouTube with my first couple of videos, because I was like, I don't want to be mocked. I don't want to be made fun of. I'm already very sensitive and emotional right now that I've made such a steep transition, because when medical wasn't working during that period of time because of COVID, I wanted to start to learn more about personal development. And that's what transitioned me to let me share my knowledge of manifestation. Let me share my knowledge and see if someone else can benefit from it, and see if people are actually intrigued to hear me speak, to hear me talk, to hear me give these types of lectures. And by my amazement, they were. TikTok was the platform that definitely embraced me the most, but my platforms are forever growing. I think we probably have about 200,000 people across all platforms now that are aware of Persis Mistry. And yeah, it's just been such a wonderful roller coaster ride that when I started to do the belief work, when I started to do the identity work, when I shifted how I saw myself, and when I shifted how I saw how the world works. So a big part of the manifestation equation is it's years and years of self-study, relentless self-study and investment into myself to see, okay, what is the exact way that you can manifest? What is the exact way? What is the step-by-step equation to actually change my life? Because a big part of frustration for me in the manifestation community in the beginning was people were talking about manifestation, but nobody was giving like a, let's put it this way, manifestation for beginners or manifestation for dummies. Like, where do I start? Where do I end? You know what I mean? Like, how do I actually do it? And so I think that was where my page was born from. It was originally more so labeled as manifestation for the overthinkers, as I create a lot of intertwining with how manifestation is just neuroscience and how it's just the art of creating new neural pathways. And if you can create a new neural pathway, which every human has the capacity to do, but we just feel varying feelings of discomfort doing it, it's actually called the art of neuroplasticity. So creating new habit loops in the brain to be able to fire and wire together. And when we do that, we're able to see radical transformations to how the world responds to us. So the first element of the equation that was very important is how we see ourselves dictates what we attract. If I see myself as an unworthy person, well, I will be attracted unworthy events and people to treat me in a way that reconfirms my identity and my own self-perception, kind of like looking into a mirror. And in addition to that, another thing that I found was very important is that how we see the world. So if I see the world as people are bad, people are evil, money is corruption, I am actually going to block myself off energetically from receiving money, especially if I'm a very prideful person of, I don't want to be identified with corruption. You know what I mean? Or if I was raised in a certain household where being humble or having less was actually a good trait. So changing how we see the world, how it operates and how it can operate for us, along with how we see ourselves, determines and directly correlates to what we attract, were huge things when I was crafting this manifestation equation.
Oh my God, this is brilliant. And now, my fearless friends, do you see how much sense it makes what Persis said earlier? People want to hear her talk. Just talk, Persis. We love to hear you talk. This is amazing. And I'm so grateful for this amazing information. It's like my mind is literally opening up like a sponge to absorb everything that you say in a way. And as I said earlier, even before we started, it finally just makes so much sense with all the law of attraction and the law of assumption. Can you please tell us a bit about this? I call it's a phenomenal magical law because not many people talk about the law of assumption. Everyone wants to attract. It's the law of attraction,
Right.
but it's just so much more to it, right?
There's so much more to it than meets the eye. And I still like study into both laws and see how I can even intertwine the parts that are actually backed by science, that are actually backed by quantum physics to be able to produce the most high caliber like information out there for people, because my goal and my mission is to really help transform the world in a positive place, to be able to help motivate and inspire people that you can have, do, or be anything you want, as long as you're willing to do some of the belief work to get it. Because when your identity matches the life you want to experience, it's next to impossible to not experience it. The only reason that we haven't experienced it is because some part of our current identity holds, internalizes a certain identity that is actually inconsistent with what we want to experience. So to give you an example of the law of assumption versus law of attraction, and I can speak to, did you want me to just talk about one or the other, or how would you like me to approach it? Please tell me.
Oh my God. Anyway, you feel like talking about it. I know it's going to be the best way because I could literally listen to you for hours.
I know.
I don't want this episode to end, Persis.
I know. Listen, I will start with the law of attraction. So the law of attraction is not necessarily a bad law. I think maybe we just learned it in an incorrect manner. The parts of the law of attraction that I think are particularly useful is when they talk about words like frequency or vibration. I think they just explained it wrong. I'm going to try to explain it in a way that's going to make people, even from the law of assumption community, go, oh, and hopefully we'll have this big aha moment together. So I think we're all just using derivatives of the same words in certain elements of both laws. And I'm going to explain to you how and why I think that way right here. So in the law of attraction, we talk about if you're on the same frequency of what you want to attract, well, you'll attract it. But when you're not on the frequency of what you want to attract, it's going to miss you. And you're not going to actually have the opportunity to experience it. So now if I was to say the exact same thing, but in law of assumption terms, when you feel like the person who has the desire, having the desire becomes easy and effortless. But when you feel separate from your desire or disconnected from your desire in some manner, you end up missing it. So do you see how both of those statements, they're actually saying the same things? But I think, I don't know, maybe it was just the way they were explained at that period of time or the way it was being put out there, that I think there was a lot of misunderstandings. And I think in the law of attraction community, you know, there's a lot of other side ventures that it discusses and talks about that can kind of get really convoluted and confusing. But the parts I would really want people to take away from this episode is your current reality right now, by my belief system and by a lot of belief systems from people that are in this particular self-help growth development space, is that who you're being dictates what you're attracting. If there's some area of your life that is plateauing, or you're not able to get ahead no matter how much you try, it would be worthwhile for you and for the own quality of your life to start to investigate what parts of my identity are actually going against what I want to experience. Because we all have a set amount of belief systems. And I'll give you an example of how deep this goes. The brain is actually designed, and if you, and this is the thing, a lot of this stuff, it's just education. When you have education, knowledge is power. And that's why I think people love my pages, because I give them the education to feel comfortable to shift their belief systems. A lot of times when you try to actually, partake in neuroplasticity, try to partake in creating a new neural pathway, your brain defends your old identity by bringing you old events from the past that reconfirm you can't have this, by giving you intrusive thoughts from the past that reconfirm love can't work out for you, money can't work out for you. But that's actually part of the process. And it means in most cases, I would say probably 90% of cases, you were actually doing something correctly. Because when you can get the most intelligent part of your entire body, which is your brain, to question its own programming, think of it this way. If I had a belief system that I am unworthy for the past 10 years of my life, and I just start to tell myself and speak over myself in affirmation format to bless myself that I am worthy, I am incredible, I am wonderful, I am abundant, my brain's going to be like, no, you're not. Remember that time you got evicted? No, you're not. Remember that time that John left? No, you're not. Remember that time that somebody threw you out when someone didn't want you? Your brain defends the belief system it knows to be true. But some people internalize that as what my brain is telling me means that that is all that's available, and that is the most logical outcome. So my brain is actually telling me what's available for me, not realizing that you programmed your brain. So if you can program your brain's going to defend the baseline of your own programming. Now, here's the crazy part. From our youth, from our adolescence, from our upbringing, we all had events that occurred in our lives. We were all born into certain households, families. We all come from different races, religions, backgrounds, socioeconomic statuses, etc. And based on the support we had or didn't have, based on the love that was present or not, based on the events that happened or did not, based on the time that life let us down or did not, we created stories. Now, these stories may have been conscious or unconscious, but where I was eventually trying to get to, but wanted to present a very well-rounded explanation, is the brain is designed to create stories. Stories are actually the basis of what represents our identities. So if you can just activate a new story, you can start to embody a new identity. When you embody a new identity, certain synchronicities will occur in your life to be able to attract better. But a lot of times people don't want to touch the stuff that's been a little bit sticky, that's been a little bit hurtful, that's been a bit uncomfortable. So if I was to sit down and let's pretend like we had a client right now that was joining us, and if I wanted to just do some live hot seat coaching for a minute, I may just playfully say what are your beliefs about why your money situation is stuck? What do you actually believe about money? Just out of curiosity and just out of fun. They may say after they sit and ponder it, I don't really believe that I can have money. And they may have never actually thought that from the events I described earlier, from the youth that was, I brought up earlier, but their brain came up with the justification. Because whenever a painful or uncomfortable event happens in the past, our brain comes up with a story to justify how we can protect ourselves from that pain. So a lot of times it attacks our own self-perception, or a lot of times it attacks how we see the world if we're a person that doesn't really like to internalize things about us, but we want to kind of like discredit it to like, people are bad, the world is evil, like money is corruption, you know what I mean? And so a lot of times we don't even know the stories that we are internalizing because our brains, that's just their native, like their natural response is to just create stories, create stories, create stories. We do this in both good and bad directions. The bad directions are the ones that are causing the plateaus. So if you can start to identify the root cause of the stories that are actually inconsistent with the identity of what I call your 2.0 self, you can start to radically change your life very, very quickly. It's not a working issue in many instances, it's an identity issue. Too many people do not carefully and consciously craft an identity based on the person they want to become. They may hold it in their mind as a dream, as a wish, as an aspiration, but how many people also speak against the impossibility of that occurring and then wonder why it doesn't occur? That's my work.
Oh my God. It's like, I want to say so many things that I need to be mindful.
I know.
This is amazing. This is literally, oh my God, I'm looking at my eyes and it's like,
I know, I can see you
awakened.
receiving it. I can see you receiving it and drinking it all in, and I love it.
It's just amazing. What you said about the identity. This is brilliant.
For
Now,
sure.
my fearless friends, you can understand my excitement. This is how I am truly honored to give you such a special person to work with. Go and check Persis' amazing work. Have a talk with her. Collaborate with her, because this is brilliance at a whole new level. It basically makes sense now. And this identity shift, Persis, can you maybe give us a first step on how to do this? Is it the self-concept work, or if you can maybe tell us a bit about this?
Sure. So the way I like to explain identity work is similar to what I mentioned before, is the identity we have now and the life we want to live, or the identity that we'd have if we got what it is that we want to get. Those tend to have a few different, differences. Let's put it that way. They can be small. They can be just small little shifts in beliefs, or they could be quite substantial. The first thing I would encourage people to do is to craft out what are your current belief systems around how you see yourself in relation to this desire. Self-concept is a very broad term that can sometimes be misunderstood, but hopefully this definition helps people that I'll provide right now. It's how you see yourself in relation to the object of desire that you prefer, meaning that we have multiple self-concepts. We have a different self-concept for love than we have for money, than we have for business, than we have for lifestyle, than we have for our health. And that explains why someone could do well in money, but poor in love. I could have good belief systems on money, and that's why that area will never dry up. But I could have bad belief systems about health, and that could cause any type of myriad of conditions that I would experience because my belief systems are not congruent with an, holistic, like perfectly balanced immune system, however you'd want to put it. And so the first step would be to identify the current belief systems of how you see yourself in relation to your object of desire. So what I'd say is a lot of times this looks like a lot of I am statements. What are the belief systems we have that go against it? So maybe I'm unworthy. I can't have it. It's not available for me. It's basically an I am issue in majority of instances. It's how we see ourselves. So my old identity may have said, I'm not worthy to earn money, like in a relaxed or enjoyable space. Like it's not available for me. I'm not good enough. I have to earn it. I have to go down the blood, sweat, and tears avenue to be able to acquire it. Just different things like this. And when we start to work on self-concept first and foremost, so much of our life opens up. So much of our life opens up. I would dare say that 90% of attraction can be activated by just doing some really good self-concept work, because a lot of times with what I described in how the brain works before, it tends to attack us rather than the real world. When I gave those two examples of, you know, looking at yourself versus looking at how you see the world. We, in majority of instances, obviously this is not a perfect foolproof example I'm giving right now, but in majority of instances, let's say a woman is betrayed by a partner. A lot of times she makes it mean something about herself rather than about the world, or rather than about love. Now, she could also share, and she could also make up stories about both, but a lot of times if she can just get her own self-perception, her own self-worth, her own deservingness, her own worthiness on board, she will end up being able to attract, oh my gosh, endless amount of opportunities of individuals that can give her the world. And so self-concept is definitely the identity work I encourage people to work on first. As a matter of fact, whenever they work with me, I don't even allow them to work on seeing the world differently until we've conquered self-concept, because so many things stem from that, you know? And so anyone that works with me, they know I have that golden rule and that I don't violate it for really anyone, because too often people want to skip to, like, you know, the opposite side. But a lot of things are done through self. How you see yourself will directly impact how others see you. In majority of instances, not all instances, we're not necessarily, by my belief system, controlling every aspect of our life. But in law of assumption, to also just circle back to even a previous point, it is all about your dominant assumptions dictate what you're attracting. So it's not necessarily that each and every single person in my reality is like an NPC and they're all just here responding to me. But if I'm catching myself in negative relationship patterns, I probably have a belief system that's attracting that, versus something that's a one-time off incident. That's probably not something that's actually got a consistent belief system within me or an identity gap within me. But if I find myself that no matter how hard I'm trying in money, I can't get ahead, no matter how many businesses I start, they all fail, that is something that would probably benefit from a lot of self-concept belief work, because patterns dictate what the patterns are in the brain. And so when you change the patterns in the brain, what you experience in your reality changes.
This is excellent. I am so amazed. Just look at me, and I'm not even trying to hide it, because as you are saying, Persis, and I just adore what you said earlier, that you have this golden rule, which basically translates, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the 3D world is not real. This is real. You need to work on this, because if you look at what's happening out there, you may be starting to blame, right? Ego takes full control, but then come back to you. And then this is the world that you need to focus on, so that the 3D basically looks like how you are here. Is that correct?
So this is the way I describe it for a lot of individuals, to make sure there's not a lot of confusion. Whatever we have in our mind, whatever is programmed into our subconscious mind, if this is the first time you're hearing a word like that, it is what your brain knows to be true. So whatever you know to be true is what's impressed into your subconscious mind. Now, what you attract is based on who you're being, as we said before, how you're feeling, what you're expecting. There's a couple of different aspects that dictate your attraction. But if you want to go to a root level, it's obviously the stories. Obviously, the stories we know to be true, not the stories we know to be false. So the real thing right there is when you can get your subconscious mind on board with what you want by honestly just telling a story that is consistent with the life that you want, your reality changes. So what that means in translation is everything that I'm experiencing in my reality currently, maybe not everything, but like I said, the dominant experiences, so let me correct myself there, are coming from a previous event that I assigned a story to, real or imagined. Now, where this can sometimes be something that people can run away with is, I'll give you a really good example so that people can kind of wrap their heads around it. Let's just say life dealt me a very, very, very good hand. And I only embodied one story that was negative in my whole 30 years of life. Let's just pretend I was God's favorite in that manner. Okay, so let's say that story is I am unworthy. I had an event in my past or multiple events in my past show me that I'm unworthy. When I internalize that story consciously or unconsciously, because the brain is always creating stories to protect you from negative events that are occurring, in the past, in the present, and also in the future, I will continue to hold that active in my own energy, in my own vibration, in my own frequency, whatever the word is you want to put on it. And so if I'm projecting that out there, think of me standing at the Grand Canyon and think of me shouting into the Grand Canyon, I am unworthy. What would you hear back? I am unworthy. I am unworthy. I am unworthy. You'd hear that echo. So what you put out there into the universe, it will echo back. Now, we may not be actively standing at the Grand Canyon and screaming, I am unworthy out there, but we're always putting out an energetic signature into our reality. And so it compiles all your good beliefs, of course, but also your bad beliefs, because your brain does not discriminate. So who you're being is a compilation of both good and bad, yin and yang. And so when we're projecting and when we're showing up in the world and being the person that, let's say that you feel really confident, really good, you have on a nice outfit, you're feeling yourself, it's kind of like Beyonce and Nicki Minaj type of vibes, and you're showing up in the world loud and proud, you realize how everything that day kind of goes your way. People may even extend more kindness to you. Someone may even have an empty parking spot that comes available for you. People may even buy you a coffee. A nice man may ask you for your number. There's so many different things that happen and people are like, oh, that's just a coincidence. But in reality, it wasn't. Now think of the day you didn't do very well. You had a very rough start and everything else tumbled over. So who we're being is always dictating what we're attracting, meaning that my energetic signature that I'm putting out, the reality is always responding to me. I am the source. So if I can change my energetic signature, I can change how this reality is working for me. Meaning that whatever the dominant experiences that are blocked currently in my life, let's say that love was blocked for me, and I did a lot of really good belief work around love. What that technically means is before, I probably internalized the I am unworthy thing that I mentioned. So I may be attracted. Well, actually, before I even go there, let me ask you a question. How many different events do you think are possible? How many different permutations of events do you think that are possible that could potentially show a person that we are unworthy? What is the biggest number you can think of?
I think it's millions, right?
Millions, billions, trillions. There's so many different ways that we can be shown, even in this very rudimentary example, that if I just had one negative belief system in my energy of I am unworthy, that could push out in my job devaluing me. That could push out in men always showing up in my life with hot and cold behavior. That could show up in my health always declining and me not feeling very confident within my own body. That could show up with a poor relationship with my family. So do you see how even one belief system that is off could technically rapidly impress across so many different areas of my life, which is why it's so very important to remember that this is very real. The belief systems that you're carrying in your own energy are very, very real. So the reality you're experiencing that stuckness with, I'm willing to bet money in majority of instances, because like I said, anything that's a dominant experience, there's a belief pattern that's going in the opposite direction for it. If you could just get it to go in the right direction, you will unblock it. Meaning that what you experienced formerly with maybe men or women is not necessarily your fault. I don't want to make it that people are to blame, but it just means that we internalized a story that was really, really negative. But once we shift that story, all of a sudden those experiences with men or women will open up. So it's really designed to be an encouraging and motivating message for people that who we're beings dictating what we're attracting, meaning that sure, if you want to play a blame game and say, oh, I caused all my life problems, you could, but that doesn't sound very empowering. And a lot of times, like I said, we're not causing all of it, we're causing the plateaus of some of it. And those plateaus are caused by the belief systems that are conflicting with the life we want to create. So if you want to start to move your life in the direction you want to go, you have to start to do like belief audits and see, where am I actually blocking it? Because it's only when you unblock it, and there won't be anyone who can do that work but you, that you'll start to get the life that you wanted.
Oh my God. I am adoring this beautiful metaphor of, I think it's one of the best verses that I've heard about the universe, how it works.
Yeah.
Go to Grand Canyon and shout out whatever you believe the most. So now let us go to Grand Canyon and say the best things about us, which reminds me, oh my God, I need to visit that place. I haven't yet.
I know, right? I know. It's so fun. It's so fun. And it should hopefully be a huge motivating lesson for your people that nothing was ever really like not possible for you. And I hope if there's anything people take from this message, is that it's designed to motivate and uplift you, that life was never not able to work out. We just internalized a story that said we couldn't have it. And then because life is always responding to what we're offering, we got proof of it. But I challenge people to, try to do some belief work and see how much you can literally open that area of life and how it's all really coming from you as the source.
Okay, what you just said now, this last minute, this needs to be, oh my God, this is going to be my motto. This is just absolutely exceptional how you explain it. Persis, no one does it better than you. No one. I'm such a huge content consumer in terms of mindset, because I'm curious. I'm so much like you, very curious to observe, to just get new things happening around me. So I am just blown away, my fearless friends. This is blowing my mind, and I hope you're taking notes. If you haven't, go back, click back to start.
There's a lot of good stuff in here.
Take a pen and a piece of paper, because this is the masterclass that you didn't know you needed, but you truly need to put this in practice, because my neurons are having a great party right now, Persis.
I know. Your brain is expanding. I can feel it.
Oh my God, it is. It truly is. And can you please share with us in about a minute, how do you deal with fear, my dear? Because you have many things going on, and it's a constant challenge, I know.
For sure, especially for a personality like myself, that I always strive for excellence. I always strive to push that boundary, push that limit a little bit more. I'm always trying to, as I said, be more, do more, accomplish more, excel more, just make myself a better person each and every single day. And I really live by the medicine I give to others. So for me, I'm not just putting it out there, but not applying it. I'm always overcoming a new version of myself to get to that next level, because the work never goes away. The beliefs, they just change, little bit. And so I'm always overcoming my own fear of what that next level represents for me. And so the way I conquer fear is that I love to sit down and honestly do my own manifestation process, the process that has helped people all over my page do some really crazy things. I know some people might find what I'm about to say too good to be true, but the manifestation process that I teach people, it's helped people reverse very severe health conditions such as cancer, HIV, autoimmune disorders. It's also helped people manifest in their loves of their lives, their soulmate. It's even helped people manifest money into the billions. Everything in this universe is made up of energy. And when you learn how to alchemize energy, you become a master of the universe, and really nothing is off limits. So my specific process, to give you a very small detail of it, is that I sit down with myself, similar to what I described before in my belief audits. I journal out my old identity. I journal out my next level. I almost kind of make a little bit of a Venn diagram, and I see what parts of me, of my old self and my new self, are congruent and what parts are different. And I make the parts that are different my main focus, because if the real key to get to the next level is just bridging the gaps of the belief system that my current self doesn't have, well, then the real question becomes, becomes, how can I feel the abundance before my next level of abundance comes? How can I start to feel more loved and whole and appreciative of my body as I try to maybe lose 10 more pounds, or as I try to maybe gain some weight, or whatever people's goals are? Then my main focus becomes, how can I start to believe that, you know, people will reach out to me for more job opportunities? Like, how can I start to overcome my fears by starting to activate stories and starting to become the version of myself, by allowing myself to feel my success before the success happens? A lot of times when we do that, the brain doesn't like it very much. But that's where persistence is such a huge key. Determination and persistence and hunger for more is such a huge key that differentiates people who are able to be successful in this work and people who may fall out of this work.
This is absolutely beyond mind-blowing, Persis, and this has, what an honor to be in your amazing presence. I am truly, truly grateful. And I know that our fearless friends watching us and listening to us will want to get in touch with you. I know we are short on time. It has been such an immense pleasure, Persis. My fearless friends, you are going to find all of Persis' details to contact her, to get in touch with her amazing and brilliant and mind-expanding work in the details of this recording. And Persis, again, thank you so much. What an absolute pleasure to be guided and to be inspired by you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I was so happy to come, and I'm so happy, and I'm excited about all the lives that are going to change by people applying these teachings. Because if you're listening, I promise you have been brought here for a reason. Don't ignore that reason. Don't sleep on your next level, because the 2.0 version of you is waiting for you.
100%. So my fearless friends, get in touch with Persis today. Please don't say tomorrow, later. No, today. You'll thank me later. You will thank us later. Thank you so much again, Persis.
You're welcome.